Mackenzie Johnston with Cattle News Central, bringing you your May 23rd cattle industry headlines. Brought to you by 4T Ag Insurance, your go-to contractor for ag insurance. The folks at 4T Ag are dedicated to providing you with insight, information, and alternative risk solutions that are custom fit to your business and personal needs. They offer both crop and drought insurance, and they offer LRPs on both fed and feeder cattle. If you'd like more information, head on over to their website, 4tag.net. That is the number 4. TAG.net. We are also sponsored by American Beef Producer Magazine. Through their campaign, Real Beef Made from Plants, they are reminding the general public that beef is already made from plants. It is not some fake product sitting on a grocery store shelf packed with chemicals and an ingredients list a mile long. And they're doing this by selling tees, hoodies, stickers, and caps. I encourage you all to check out what they have to offer. Head on over to realbeef.shop. American Beef Producer Magazine, guiding beef producers for over 25 years. And finally, Ag Risk Advisors. They manage your risk so you can manage your operation. With the weather being unstable, there is no better time to look at coverage for your feed crops. The annual forage deadline is right around the corner. With their state-of-the-art technology and second-to-none customer service, you can be sure that your policy is in good hands. Ag Risk Advisors, risks averted, legacies preserved. In a press release put out last week, NCBA condemned the Meat and Poultry Special Investigator Act of 2022. This bill would create a special investigator in the USDA, as we talked about last week, and this investigator would essentially keep the packers in check. It would grant subpoena power to aid in the investigation and prosecution of violators of the P&S Act. And NCBA is all of a sudden coming out against this act because last week the House Ag Committee marked up the bill. According to Ethan Lane, NCBA Vice President of Government Affairs, cattle producers support oversight of the meatpacking industry, but this bill does not do that. Arming USDA with unchecked subpoena power and prosecutorial power while significantly undercutting the DOJ's role in the process is poor practice, said Lane. Lane closed by saying instead of focusing on creating a new position in the USDA to oversee the packers, the agency should instead be working on ways to help cattle producers deal with inflation, soaring input costs, labor shortages, and ongoing supply chain issues. And then on the other side of the coin, last week, the United States Cattlemen's Association came out in full support of this bill. According to Brooke Miller, president of USCA, for far too long, the U.S. cattle marketplace has lacked a referee on the playing field. This bill would give several federal agencies the authority to act cooperatively to pursue multinational corporations who fail to live up to American values. This update is also sponsored by Circle 5 Cow School. If you're wanting to learn how to preg check your own cows or start AIing, Circle 5 Cow School is definitely the way to go. Almost every week, they are hosting classes somewhere between Texas and Tennessee. If you'd like to check out their schedule, head on over to circle5cowschool.com. That is the number 5 in there, or you can go ahead and just give them a follow on Facebook. Fox Business News has reported, according to JPMorgan, Americans can expect the average national retail price for a gallon of gasoline, regular gasoline, to surpass $6 in the coming summer months. In a research note, the financial company reported between now and August, prices have the potential to surge another 37% based on the expectation of strong driving demand. According to Natasha Kaneva, head of JPMorgan's Global Commodity Strategy team, most years, refiners produce more gasoline ahead of the summer road trip season to build up their inventories, but since mid-April, gasoline inventories have fallen and they now sit at the lowest seasonal levels since 2019. So while we are seeing sky-high fuel prices, Democrats are trying to fix these prices with legislation. According to The Hill, last Thursday, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to pass the Democrats' bill aimed at combating price gouging on gasoline. So this is the same bill I mentioned a few weeks ago. Nancy Pelosi has been pushing it along with all of the Democrats in D.C. They believe that the oil industry is gouging consumers, so they're going to turn to legislation to fix these sky-high fuel prices. Keep in mind, this is the same group of people pushing this bill. They're the same ones that are making it difficult for the oil industry to expand domestic drilling, whether it be red tape that they have put in place or canceling drilling leases. As we've talked about, there were 3 critical drilling leases that were canceled here in the last few weeks. These people that are pushing this bill, they are standing in the way of fuel prices coming down because they are totally against increasing domestic production, which would solve this whole issue. So instead, they're going to come out against the oil industry with legislation. The bill passed by a vote of 217 to 207, and no Republicans voted in favor of it. If this bill were to make it through the Senate, it would outlaw the sale of fuel at an excessive price during an energy emergency, though it does not detail any particular price threshold. Additionally, the bill would empower the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, to pursue legal action if instances of price gouging are discovered. But there is a good chance that this bill won't hold any water when it comes to the Senate because it would need the support of 10 Republicans in order to advance, and the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. Despite the Democrats' claim of price gouging, market analysts have said time and time again that high fuel prices are primarily being driven by Russia invading Ukraine, as well as pandemic recovery. Republicans argue that Democrats are trying to shift blame for high gasoline prices when we all know these high prices have been brought on by President Biden's ridiculous policies. And the Republicans, and I'm not just being biased in my opinion when I say this, it's the Republicans have it right. It's the policies of our president that have gotten us to where we are today when it comes to fuel prices. And it is downright disappointing, and I don't even know the right word to put on the Democrats just switching the blame, because originally it was COVID that caused all these high fuel prices, and then they also blamed COVID for inflation. And then all of a sudden it was Putin's fault. Thank goodness the war broke out because they had something else to blame these high fuel prices on. And now they've decided to switch the blame to the oil industry. The Democratic Party, the Biden administration, they are the worst leaders our country has ever seen because they are just doubling down on their terrible policies. They cannot take responsibility for making some bad policies and possibly turning the ship around and helping out the American consumer in some way. They will not do that. And because of that, we will just continue to see fuel prices go higher and higher and higher. The Daily Mail has reported that the national gas station chain 76, located in Washington state, is reprogramming its pumps to accommodate $10 a gallon fuel. This move comes at a time when fuel seems to be setting a record high price almost every day. Some gas stations in the state of Washington have actually run out of gasoline in recent weeks. And of course, gas stations are dealing with a shrinking supply of diesel. Reuters has reported last Thursday, U.S. Senators Elizabeth Warren and Mike Rounds introduced a bipartisan resolution asking the Federal Trade Commission to investigate beef companies for potential price fixing. The senators invoked a 1914 act that authorizes the president or Congress to direct the FTC to investigate alleged antitrust violations. This rule has not been used since the 1920s. And finally, on Friday, USDA released their cattle on feed report. As of May 1st, cattle on feed totaled 12 million head. That's up 2% year over year. This is the highest May 1st inventory on record since the series began back in 1996. Placements in April totaled 1.81 million head, down 1% compared to the same time last year, and marketings of fed cattle during April totaled 1.89 million head, down 2% year over year. That is all I have for you guys this morning. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Have yourself a fantastic Monday. I'll catch you later.